Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider Zi-O. I am Vashi V, and joining me today are
Okay.
Rye?
And zero. And we may or may not have more people dropping by, but for now it's just us four.
Welcome to the finale of Kamen Rider Zi-O. Welcome to the end of the Heisei era. Welcome to Ohma Day.
and what a day it was.
Uh, so, Kamen Rider Tsukuyomi.
Oh god. Right? I'm like, who's gonna get to it? Fuck, that curse is strong.
One of my favorite quotes from the podcast was last week when Zero, you said Tsukuyomi has to survive one episode and we're still worried about her. And boy, were we justified.
I mean,
Right?
in fairness, her surviving one episode was, what, 2 seconds? Because she transformed and then it ended.
Yeah, I know, but like still more. Okay, then she mentioned again. So technically still longer than the person in fives. So I
Yeah,
guess that's an accomplishment, but nothing beyond that.
but like that girl from Fives was doing shit off camera we didn't see, whereas Tsukuyomi didn't need to be a writer to do anything she did this episode.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not talking about the first user, Delta, I'm talking about the other one.
Oh,
But
like that other girl that just henshins and then immediately gets owned.
yeah, she gets like less than 30 seconds, that one. Which sucks because she had like way more reason to be like the new Delta user than the actual guy that ended up being Delta.
But she couldn't because you see what happens to female writers on this show.
Yeah, at least she got to live, unlike fucking
Anyone else.
anyone. Well, I mean, like, that's not true. The one from, unlike Kamen Rider Mage is still alive.
Uh, Poppy is still alive.
Poppy
Yeah,
is
but Poppy
currently
can.
alive, but she did
Yeah, yeah.
die.
That's
So did
like saying
Tsukuyomi.
Tsukiyomi's. Yeah, I know, but like the difference is like Poppy's still a writer. Tsukiyomi, we don't even fucking know, right?
Uh,
Like none of them have belts at this point.
it's a build
Right.
situation where, like, yeah, they don't have any belts right now, but something's gonna happen and they're gonna get their belts again for no reason.
Right? Which is gonna be real stupid because like, okay, what does Aura do? Because I'm
Nothing.
like, yeah, because I'm like, I can see. Okay, he kind of was like, you can kind of be like, all right, he wasn't super evil. He just did some messed up things because he was
He
trying to change his
he
fucked up future.
he was working for the wrong group.
Yeah, right. So he could have been a good guy. Whereas like, um,
Aura.
Aura, yeah, Aura's problem is like she's like super opportunistic. So like, why would you trust her to be on the good guys team?
I mean, hell, one of her final actions was killing Earth.
Yeah, but like
Or-
all the female powered people do that,
Right. It's
right?
like,
Like,
but it at no point through anything of Aura's storyline in any way does it validate her having any type of redemption.
right,
She
exactly. I
like
think they just wanted to wrap it up where it's like, oh, the whole cast gets a happy ending. I'm like, except Waz. I mean, I guess Waz was still in that timeline.
Waz still has his happy ending because now he's documenting Sugo's new rise.
Yeah. Um, which, all right, we'll get.
so going off of their plan, which is that their world is doomed. So fuck it, abandon it. Tsukuyomi's world, however, can be saved. So they turn Tsukuyomi into a rider to save her world, and their plan is to pull everyone over into the new world. And yeah, I watched Build 2.
Yeah, that was
Exactly.
as soon as it happened. That was my thought.
Right? And then, I mean, Drago kind of has a point about this. We'll say what Drago and Henshin thoughts were a little bit later. But yeah, that was pretty concise. Also, it's like I love that one moment where it's like, oh yeah, this is your world, Sogo. So Decade finally does his like, oh, this is your world, name drop writer, but it's not the real world, right? And that's only happened a couple times where he just shows up and the real writer is there, like Wizard. Like last couple episodes, Decades running around and it's like, oh, this is your world. The Wizard's like, no, it's not, because it's
Right,
like
it's the real
the
wizard, so
deck.
he knows that like, nah, this isn't right.
Right, exactly. So it's like, oh, this is just the Decade messed up version. But the best part about what Decade said this episode and him running around all of Zi-O is like Zi-O the whole show is just an extended version of the Decade shit. So the full show is just a one of those what if Decade worlds.
I'm glad he and
Because the
Deanne
new
could be here
world
for the end.
yeah. Oh man. Um no, it's fine.
I know I wasn't here for the podcast when it happened, but I was so glad I got to hear Sukasa get asked if he'd eaten a sea cucumber yet.
Oh god. Yeah, that was so
And in
good.
the way, in the just the way he did it, just can you eat one now?
Right, you came back from the dead. I love how that's a running gag. And the best thing is like, alright, that gag's never explained except in that one stage show which doesn't
I
fully
was
make
gonna say
sense
they
because like
explained it.
yeah, so there's one stage show which kinda hints at why DN's always saying that to Decade. And so it's a weird stage show where like all the writers go to a restaurant
Uh
and
huh.
like Ixa's one of the waiters and he like gets fed up. He gets fed up with all their fucking orders, and he has like sea cucumber, and he chucks it right at fucking DN's face. So, so the one who doesn't like sea cucumbers is DN, but because Decade
Oh,
lost his memory, DN just fucks with him by saying, "Oh, you can't eat that."
oh,
Um,
oh! I love it.
yeah, so it's not official, but that's the explanation in that weird stage.
So, Decade. Any thoughts about Decade's plan or like the comparisons to Build or Sea Cucumber?
Sea cucumber. No thoughts on that. But yeah, the plan was kind of interesting because the only difference from build is that people probably wouldn't lose their memories. They would literally just run away to this other world. So that was kind of interesting.
The plan didn't execute
No,
as planned, so
because Tsukuyomi had to be lame
that
and not
so
even fight in the rider suit.
that is the next note.
Um,
What do? Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was gonna point out, I was like going through all of this is like it. This is the overall issue I had with Zi-O was the fact that it's literally Decade 2.0. This is nothing more than a continuation of Decade. Because we finally got the explanation of
No, no,
why
it's even worse. Because it's not Decade 2.0, it's literally an episode of Decade stretched into a season.
yeah, it's the second season of Decade. It's really it's one episode, but yeah. But we finally get like there are some good aspects of it. We finally get the explanation of why all of Decade's worlds that he went to in the series were all fucked up, which I'm glad I finally have the explanation of that. Oh yeah, it's just another possibility for this universe. And then, given that the plan for Schwartz was Decade's plan for saving his world, just more worlds involved. Seeing the way it should have played out makes sense with the fact that Decade was quote unquote the destroyer of worlds because his entire job was originally go destroy the other riders. That'll get rid of the other worlds. That was the purpose of Decade. Destroy the riders, gets rid of them, and we finally had that that full explanation of what was supposed to be happening and why Decade's a hero for not doing it.
I mean, Decade's case was a little different, where it's like he was like Shocker's main writer. So, yeah, like with the Zi-O stuff poured in back into context, it's a little weird because it's like it makes Decade a little more heroic, whereas like in his show, it's more just like he was just like
bubbling
the
around
enforcer of Shocker, where Shocker was just doing their best Dalek impression.
Right. But like with but it explains how Shocker's plan should have worked and what Decade was supposed to be doing in all these worlds. Which again, we get finally get that clarification of how the worlds were supposed to be destroyed and how Shocker was planning on doing it, and then, Decade lost his memory for reasons.
Right. Like the weird thing still for like one of the weirder things of Zi-O is hello Drago. Is okay, there's like 20 worlds now, well what Tsukuyomi's one included. There should be like 11 or 12. Right? Because you get like Bill's one, Tsukuyomi's one, and then the original 10. So it's like what the fuck is this shit? And then also it by the end it just kind of like you guys or like Rai said, it's like yeah, maybe they're just gonna reset it for Reiwa because like the whole Neo Heisei continuity shit is just too much of a headache, so we're just gonna split up the writer world all again. And the way like Zi-O ends, it kind of just makes it like that, where it's like, okay, yeah, Avengers came out, so I guess we can do that shit. And Superhero Tyson, yeah, you laugh, but Superhero Tyson happened, right? Like that was a freaking third movie franchise that Toei had. That's dead now, so there's no point in shit. There wasn't even a Rider Sentai crossover last year.
No, because yeah, like you said, they're dead. They've burned out on those. They were getting super forced.
Yeah, I know, but like even in the episode, like Build had just Lucky show up, and then I'm not Build. X8
had Lucky show up, and
Build had nothing.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like yeah, even Toei is just burnt out on all this fucking like crossover shit. So now they're just like yeah, stand alone and go for it. And so like just to reset Reiwa, they just like split up the world again, so they don't have to deal with that. Which is fucking dumb, but whatever.
Welcome to the podcast, Drago. I'm glad you could make it after all.
Yeah, I'm glad I could make it too. It was, I finally found some time to actually, get on.
Your audio is a little jumbled, but I seem to be able to understand you, so I'm hoping the viewers at home can as well. So we pretty much just started talking. We went over the final victim of the curse of the female rider, Tsukuyomi, and we went over how their plan is similar to Build's plan, and we also talked a bit about Sea Cucumber. Any thoughts on those topics?
Okay, you know what? I have the Tsukuyomi thing was I was disappointed, but it's like it's the feeling of like I'm not mad, but I'm disappointed kind of thing. The Tsukuyomi had a kind of overall Rider Tsukuyomi had an overall screen time of 53 seconds.
Fuck, that's awful.
And he died.
Yeah, and then no. The best part is like all of them fucking died, right? And this is the finale, and I just noticed because there was this freaking Tumblr meme, where it's like Zio fucked over my world, and all I got was this lousy shark. But that being said, it's because like all of Zio's secondaries are Kamen Rider their name, right? Kamen Rider was Kamen Rider Gates, Kamen Rider Tsukuyomi.
Yeah, pretty
And I'm like,
much.
it took me till like the final episode to figure that shit out.
You really didn't
Um,
realize that?
oh god, like I'm like, all right, whatever. It's just a random name, and then Tsukiyomi happened. Like, oh no, they were actually just going for this.
It's just their
Um,
names. Eventually,
yeah,
you're gonna
like,
run out of words.
Bunch of lazy namers.
I mean, like, fuck, like the only one I can think of is like Chase before this, who was kind of like that. That's
Well,
from like
Uh,
Guy.
his was slightly different because it was Kamen Rider Chaser.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Slightly, I mean, it's still the same aspect. It's just they just
Yeah,
added
but
the
except they're
R.
just going for the car pump,
Yeah, it was
right?
a car.
Like Drive Mock Chaser.
Right. For that it was a car pun. It just happened to coincide with the fact that they named him Chase for whatever reason.
Right.
Kamen
and
Rider
then
Nadeshiko.
oh yeah, Naruto. Also, well, I guess we get a double then. Female writer named after herself. Oh, triple. And disappear. Survive but never seen again. Perfect. Um, God damn, that's fucking cool.
So, Drago, how do you feel about their plan to basically pull everyone from this doomed world into a stable world, being very similar to the end game from Build?
I can only say that two things. One, Bill did it better.
Yes.
Because okay, because it feels like this feels such a last minute tacked on idea rather than something that was set up or planned even a little bit, that it just feels odd and jarring. And in the end, they don't end up doing that. They just you know completely rewrite reality and then make a new world instead. Because everybody dies.
Right? Like, Go Rider, this is not. Where it's like, oh yeah, we really fucking thought about the ending and how this is gonna play out. Um, God, that's so dumb,
And
right? Like, and also, it's super weird where it's like, oh right, all the monsters attacking, it's like, oh right, final Grangi, dude, and all this, and then fucking Evod shows up, dropping like
black
fucking
holes.
opening up black holes. I'm like, oh no, now we're literally fucking good, right? Like, god damn it. At this point, like, if Chronos showed up, like, nice. Why not? What the fuck? Did Decade even have a final villain? We'll just add that to
Decade
to it,
was
too.
the final villain.
Okay, I guess he was there too, so why not?
Uh,
Well, another Decade was there too, so why not? Right? Oh, god.
uh,
Yeah. That's on
so
this endgame Decade.
Yeah, it definitely did feel. Uh, I don't know. I honestly felt like it was well executed, but not well written. Because, like, getting to the end, it was kind of cute, but it's like, okay, the end. But I did like the final battle and seeing the villains come back, even though it made no sense in other worlds, I guess. And they actually win against the Riders, which is pretty cool.
uh, and Drago, last question. Have you ever eaten sea cucumber?
Yes.
Uh,
Well, he's one up on Decade.
um, yeah. The other thing that kind of annoyed me is like when Soga talks to like Amazio, and Amazio is like, if you do this, you're never gonna become king again, right? And Zio goes to like, oh, it's fine, I'll find my own way of doing it. I'm like, Yeah, I kind of get the sentiment of nice stubbornness, but like the writer answer is like, who cares? I don't want to be king, and that would have completed his arc. But he's like, nah, it's fine. I'll just figure out another way. I guess that's setting up for the movie, but damn, that was a stupid ass answer.
Like, the answer made sense given what his plan was to just reset timeline. Because, yeah, things have changed, but you reset the timeline, basically, you're starting the same damn path again.
No, no, this time they have blue ties instead of red ones.
That's why I said certain things are different.
You've also got a bunch of people from the future now living in a time period where they shouldn't exist.
Right. Which I still kind of want an explanation of how that one worked out.
Yeah, I mean, especially because they're from like multiple different time periods. Right, like Tsukuyomi's from
Tsukuyomi's
one,
literally
Gates
from
is
a different world.
Yeah, Tsukuyomi and Gates. I mean, Tsukuyomi is from one, Gates and Waz are from one. Like,
Who knows where
and
Ur and Aura are from?
Yeah, exactly. Who the fuck knows where they're from, right?
Like, it sets up with the fact that with you know Waz's little ending to it is like that the whole him not being a writer thing, not really the end of it, because he just kind of is like, oh yeah, it's just not in this book. So like even Waz has that understanding that Sugo's still gonna eventually be king, and given the fact that that's been Sugo's drive since he was what, 5, it's not gonna end.
Yeah, but
the
problem with that is that was all done because freaking
Schwartz was a shit dick.
Schwartz messed with them, right? Exactly. The simplest solution is to make sure Schwartz doesn't kill his parents, and like he never goes to the future, and none of this shit happens. So it's like that would fix most of this garbage.
Hey, Sugo, never ride a bus.
Right. I mean, it's not even that. It's like, oh, you just erase fucking Schwartz from that bus, right? So
Tsukuyomi tried.
Well, Tsukuyomi was in fucking Omazio, so it's fine.
Like through all of that, the bigger problem I had was that the fact that we didn't get to see old Omazio, like we didn't get to see old Sugo.
Yeah, I mean,
okay. What I was saying is they couldn't have shown Shinichiro Shirakura's face right there, because I think that was pretty much it.
Right.
Like old Zi-O is pretty much Shirakura right there, rather than having another actor.
Like
exactly, that's what I was thinking. Because they go in the future and like Tsukuyomi sees them. It's like, oh, it's just you, because it's just older you. So it's like it's pretty hard to get a lookalike older actor, because they fucking hide themselves in a knot, saying like, oh, it looks very similar to you.
It's an older Sogo.
Yeah, which kind of fucked them over. They should have just been like, oh, I guess that's Omazio. It's some old dude.
But
right?
they could have done a good job of it in just by using the suit actor who's retiring.
Oh, dude, that would have been cool.
Yeah, Mr. Kamen Rider.
Because I mentioned that to Ride when we were talking about it. Like, that would have been the perfect thing to do. Because it pays tribute to...
Okay. I have an idea. They could have just used the uncle as well.
Yeah,
uncle is a relative of his, right?
Okay. Most of the possibilities you're talking about already happened in decades.
Wow, Sogo, you look shockingly like your uncle when you get older.
No. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, in Decade, his uncle is like working for Shocker, is evil, like one of the like head ups in Shocker.
Yeah, he's one of the great leaders of Shocker at some point.
Well, it's not Decade's uncle, but it's like
not to me.
Yeah, but whatever. It's the same thing. But right, so there's that possibility, and then like the other thing of I don't know. Like it. If we did both of those possibilities, it would literally just been all the shit that Decade pulled, which kind of sucks. But I'm like, I understand, especially because like in like Decade they had like the mini shorts, and then they're like, oh, this is the writer, and like here's more facts about like the suit and all that shit because they were kind of giving stuff about like the actual suits and stuff. And like Mr. Kamen Rider walks in and is like, oh, who's this guy? And it's like, oh, yeah, I played most of the main writers, right? So that would have been a tribute. And then making him like Omazio would have been like just, Decade 2.0. It would have been great, but I guess like was he in the Ryuki special?
I'm not sure.
No, he was in Ghost as the villain, Ultima, Ganma Ultima.
Oh, that's cool. Huh.
Okay, so this next question is for everyone. What did Tsukuyomi gain by pretending to betray her friends?
Not a fuck
Uh,
ass thing.
Curse of the Female Rider.
Yeah, that's the best answer. Oh, with the helping bonus of getting the secondary kills.
She did get one attack out of it.
Yeah, so did
Well,
her, or Aura rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause they could have got that attack any other way. There's like it was unnecessary and forced.
Okay, so what we've determined is this this writer literally has one script for female powered characters, and it's literally yes, betray your closest ally to murder your villain and then get fucked anyway. Um, so it's literally Aura's plot again, except now it's Tsukiyomi. Like, what the fuck was that garbage? Um, like I could kind of see it, where it's like, oh, okay, she had to hedge her bets and be like absolutely sure, but I'm like, fucking Gates died, right? And like Tsukiyomi does not even acknowledge that, which is bullshit, right? Like, I feel like Tsukiyomi would be the one person who's like, fuck that, we're not losing anyone. I mean, I know she kind of had the like ends justify the means arc, which was like super jarring as fuck midway through the show, but like she hasn't been acting like that lately, so it doesn't make sense. But I guess like technically she did it at one point, so it's not out of character, even though it feels super weird.
It was not paced well at all. In the on, to be honest, like this part, especially Tsukiyomi's part, had really weird pacing, and that's the thing that actually like brings this episode down. Is that betrayal thing was completely unnecessary and was just there for like few minutes of shock factor, or just not allowing your female rider to have a screen time of more than 53 seconds.
Like to me, the biggest purpose of that whole betrayal is so we could have that scene of the explanation that Tsukiyomi gives of, well, our world's only being destroyed because we don't have a writer. Hey, we've got a writer. Our world's fine now.
I feel like we could have gotten that scene of having all the heroes explaining to Schwartz while they're doing it as they basically take away his hope of victory and like announce how they're winning as they crush him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, what do you think? This is a good show? You think this like X8 or some shit? Um, right? Because like that's pretty much X8's final showdown. No, actually, fuck that. Bill did it super hard when they were like kicking Evol's ass. Um, I mean, on the plus side, Yay Gates gets to be part of like Sentai with Broken Helmet Squad now. But outside of that, like that plotline was super not necessary.
So,
Um, okay, but again, this what do you call it? But I did like the fact that Gage finally said like Sogo as instead of calling Sogo Geo, he called him Sogo, and that was a really nice moment. I did enjoy the character development he has gone through in this show. He's literally the best character here because except him and Sogo and White Wall, none of them have gotten any steady development. None of them.
Yeah, that was really well acted. I bet they studied Ren and Shinji in the
That's what
special.
I was right. Yeah, I'm like, all right, which who dies? Oh, is the brain hero dying? All right, watch ending of Ryuki. Oh, is the secondary dying? Watch Ryuki special. Uh, or movie. I'm sorry, Decade. I
Uh,
continue.
I'll admit, as I watched that scene of Sugo engaged, that's all I could think of was, "Hey, look, Ren's dying.
It,
I've seen this
it's
before."
it's the same scene in reverse.
Which, like
Right.
that was kind of what I was saying. Is like, to me, there's nothing original about this show in any way, shape, or form. This is a series that is nothing but let's pull everything from other shows. Which,
I,
given that this is the culmination of the Heisei era, that whole let's pay homage to the past writers and all that, it makes sense that that's the route they went
I
of it is just really weird.
I was constantly calling gays discount Ren for so long, and then the Ryuki special happened and made it canon.
Right, that was great.
Yeah, it's true. Oh man, so good. Um, that Ryuki special was super interesting too.
It was
So here's
Ryuki.
the yeah. It was so. I mean, there was that, but then there's also the weird shit of like, okay, Soga like reset the timeline, so like, who, who the fuck is alive? Like, okay, so like if none of Zi-O happened, that means like all the riders have their powers back, but they're not in
Yes.
a connected world, so Decade didn't end the same way. But then like,
okay. What I'm okay. Can I have a theory about that. Okay, the thing that Shogo got his powers in 2009, right? From Swords.
Right.
Uh,
right, so
so
during
I think
Decade,
what happened is that yeah, I think what happened is Sogo was the one who was connecting the worlds, and Decade's job was basically to destroy it instead. But Decade allowed it to happen, so the worlds merged instead, and people thought Decade was responsible in the end. But Sogo was the one who was connecting all the worlds,
Oh my
like
god.
all the universes. Yeah, and since like now and that's the reason why Decade happened. And Sogo, since now is at the end of Zero right now, what's happening is Sogo is basically undoing what he did, and just removing all the riders and throwing them back into their own worlds how it's supposed to be. All
Oh,
every rider existing in one individual world rather than
okay.
having a crossover with each other.
So so Sogo was born April 28th, 2000. And that whole bus incident with Schwartz took place on April 24th, 2009. And
Yeah, yeah, that timeline
yeah,
matches up.
yeah, that
right.
timeline matches up. Uh,
So this is a pretty genius explanation. I mean, I guess it would make sense because like it never really made sense why the worlds were fucking colliding. Like it made sense why like Decade could jump all over the place because that's his ability. Like that's not a shocker thing. It's just that's what Decade was born with. That's his power. Like he can jump to different worlds, and that's how he ran into Shocker and shit, right? Um, yeah. So if Soga was actually the idiot connecting the world, that's fucking genius. Um, future writers, though, how does that work, man? So like Aqua's alive, I guess.
maybe.
But what about the decade? Not decade. What about the Zeo future writers?
Well, Kikai was just a hypothetical future, so he never actually existed. Uh, Shinobi could still happen, and Quiz could still happen. They existed in a world where Ohma Zi-O never occurred, so it's not that they don't exist anymore.
Oh, you know what sucks even more now? Kagami never got to become Kabuto.
Oh,
God damn it! I
Now, do
know,
you want to
right?
know the worst thing? Is that Kenzaki and Hajime are Joker's skin.
oh my
Yeah.
god!
Yeah.
God damn it! They took away the happy ending. Also,
Yep.
I think somebody needs to change the damn you decayed thing. Meme that's running around. Just put it as instead of using Narutaki, just put it as Schwartz.
Oh,
Because he's
Alright.
not the Demon King anymore.
Narutaki.
Yeah.
Narutaki is just old Schwartz now. From that timeline.
Okay. I love how like we keep changing who the fuck Narutaki is because we've never gotten a good explanation. We went from damn you Decado because you fucked up Omazio and I was gonna be him to damn you Decado, you fucked up my world. I was I was like another decade. Um fuck it, I'll go with that. He just switched over from his black outfit to a brown one.
Yeah, it's fuck you, Decade. I had a plan for destroying everything, and you talked the good guy into saving it. Fuck you.
You know what? I could see Schwartz being a petty enough asshole to do that.
Right?
Um, yeah. Um.
Okay,
Oh.
okay. What my theory is that why Narutaki says "damn your decade" because he thought decade were responsible. Since Sword is another decade, right? So he just got an identity. He basically mistook Tsukasa for Sword. This time isn't linear.
Honore Schwarza!
Good dude.
That's pretty good. Well, the problem is like Narutaki works for Shocker, so like he would know who the fuck Decade is.
Does he? Like, who
Yeah,
doesn't
in
work
one of
for
the
Shocker?
In one of the movies, he does. It's stupid. Like that movie was so annoying. They took like so many characters from the show and shit and supporting cast, and they're like, "All right, now you guys are Shocker monsters." Like, fuck off.
Pretty much the only one who doesn't work for Shocker, Gact.
Right? No, he does. Rider-Man created Decade's belt.
God damn it!
Yeah, like the Decade version of Rider-Man is the one who made his belt. That's why he beats the
man.
shit out of Tsukasa. He's like, "You piece of crap."
When did Shocker
Get your shit
actually
together.
take over the world? Holy shit.
Um, well, in fucking Grand Prix they do.
Oh my god. Everyone is
But-
just part of Shocker.
Dude, like Grand Prix is fucked. Like Shocker like indoctrinates the shit out of people. Like they're like, "Oh, Rider 1 and 2 are dead." And so they're like, but they showed the world that like, if you're good at riding a bike in sports and shit, you're gonna be a good like soldier for Shocker, because like Rider 1 and 2 are like Shocker's greatest enemies. So to become like indoctrinated in Shocker, there's like training schools to be like super good at bike and like
So,
like,
Shocker just.
fascistic, and like Black shows up.
Shocker
Black
opened up a
shows up.
motocross academy.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much. And then like Black shows up and is like, "Fucking stop this shit right now." And then like
Drive starts
because
to
like
beat the
drives
shit
a
out of
cop. Yeah, drives a cop, and so which means he works for the establishment, but the establishment is Shocker. So like Black just shows up and like kicks his ass and is like, "Fucking snap out of it."
And the only thing that gives it away is that the Shocker monsters target the kids.
Right.
And
And
that
so it's
starts
like-
that process. And then you get Kamen Rider the Third, or Sango.
For it.
Well, Sango, at this point through all this, who goes,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
an evil asshole. I'm not an evil asshole. I'm not an evil asshole.
yeah.
I'm an evil
I mean,
asshole.
You work for
that's
Shocker.
to be fair, like that kind of made sense for his character arc, where
Right,
it's like he worked for Shocker, he did what they wanted, and then to justify to himself what he did was right. Like all these years, he's kind of been in like denial, and he kind of thinks of himself as a piece of shit. So he's like, "All right, I'm doing bad things because I'm an asshole. So who cares?" But
and
like it clearly affects him
then he
until like
has that Kamen
yeah.
Rider moment of justice.
Yeah, well, it's more like fuck this. It's better. The world's better with Rider One and Two in it, instead of what I did. So like he just like regrets his decision and finally decides to act on that.
Like,
Like that's the thing. Like GP is not an interesting movie. Like it's okay. Rider Three is interesting. The special Kamen Rider Four. Like Rider Four is super fucking boring.
mainly
But that
because
movie is super interesting.
it's mainly boring because it's the same thing happening over and over and over and over again the entire movie.
Yeah, plus Rider 4 has no fucking character at all. Um, unlike Rider 3.
Unless you use the head canon by the actor that Rider was technically supposed to be Kasumi Daido from, and then they reprogram him using him for Never. They use him for Rider 4's body.
Yes, that's. I mean, to be fair, like, that guy's been, like, so many different things connected to Rider now. Like, you
But
could connect a million things.
but I have to give Shocker credit after all of this time of trying to make an evil fucking super powered Kamen Rider for their purpose. They finally got one. They got one that stayed with Shocker. Because 1 and 2 didn't, Sango didn't, Decay didn't.
Well, oh, you mean Rider 4? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Rider
because he's
4
he's basically a fucking robot.
right, Rider 4. But you would think in like from a logical standpoint, 1, 2, and 3 failed. Tsukasa failed. I'm done. I'm done creating monsters that are things that are going to come back and kick my ass.
To be fair, like it's just a thing of numbers at that point. Like, yeah, I kind of get it. It's like, hey, how many times do you have to fail before you realize? But I'm like, okay, realize like they've made like hundreds of monsters, like 4 of them failed.
And those 4 of them failed so hard that they rebelled
Yeah.
against them and destroyed everything.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's only the specific ones of let's remodel a human
Yeah, that's a good
because
point.
because
I
all
mean,
Shocker
so that's
was
one of the things about Foundation X is at least they fucking try tons of different shit, right?
They never
Right.
get anywhere, but
Yeah, they never get anywhere.
because Shocker tried 2 things. Let's stick 2 different type of animals together that make no fucking sense, like a snail and a cheetah.
Dude, that
And-
monster was fucking super effective, bro.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, but it was they had that type of thing, and let's create a cybernetic human. Fuck, the cybernetic human keeps kicking our ass. You know what?
maybe we can beat it with another cybernetic human. Fuck, now there's 2 of them.
That's so true. I mean,
Well, maybe we can
To be
take.
honest, they,
Let's
okay,
take.
what I was saying is,
Go ahead.
what I was saying is they did make a lot of cybernetic humans who didn't rebel. Like, those duplicate riders they had in Kamen Rider 1. And the Kamen Rider, the original series, like with yellow scarves.
yeah. What when they become like die shocker? No. Yeah, whatever. So like the second shocker that's in the first show. Because that's the thing about fucking shockers. That's why like we keep reusing shockers because 1, it's easy villains. And 2, it's because like shocker, whenever they die, they just like some fraction survives and then they come back. So it's so much easier. It's just like, oh, which version of shocker are you? Well, just add another name in the beginning before shocker. That's the version. You know.
I'm also pretty sure that they're doing it just to remind kids that Nazis are bad.
I don't know about that, but it's probably more easier. Yeah, we would like to think it's like, oh right, like Ishinomori's thing of like, yeah, fascists are fucking assholes. Um,
Well, because I
like
mean that's what.
anybody with too much power, like because especially like in the manga, like Shocker is just part of the government, so they're more like Hydra in Captain America: Winter Soldier, where they're like
Right,
secretly
but
doing their shit.
they were like throughout the manga and the shows, like they fucking Hitler is a character, like he existed and Shocker did shit for them. Well, German Shocker, but
Right, that's a good
still
point.
Shocker. It's the only thing that makes sense for their little e pose,
Yeah, yeah,
and
that's true.
then the writers show up and kick their asses.
Right, exactly. But
Nazis are bad.
uh, yeah, here's the problem with that theory of like, oh yes, they're clearly going like anti-Nazis. They had like Year of Shocker, right?
Right, and then you got
Uh,
the luchador
no, no,
Shocker.
no. So Year of Luigi, right? They had fucking Year of Shocker. They're like Kamen Rider girls had like a Shocker motif going for like a year. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. Is like, yeah, like fucking Nazi is bad, but I'm like, at this point, like, I don't think Toei gives a shit. I think we use Shocker because they're easy villains to use. I mean, like, I would like to think that they're like teaching the kids, like, yeah, don't be fascist. That'd be awesome. I doubt it, but whatever.
I mean, that's what happens when capitalism is. It's not really root of all evil, but it's kind of when you make stuff commercialized, this shit is bound to happen. Remember that what do you call it? You can get Nazi Captain America's hot toys. So yeah,
Oh, right. Hydra, Captain America shit. That is a good point. Ah, fuck it. We're not getting sidetracked into like politics. We'll be here all night.
Oh yeah, okay. So while everyone else is out fighting the end of the world, Dian even shows up to help out. Sogo has a last meal with his uncle, who fixed all of the broken ride watches and gives them to him before he goes out into battle.
Because there's no watch he can't fix.
Dude, he's fixed
and
everything
also we
else at this
don't.
point.
Yeah, he fixed a deadliner, so I
Yeah,
ride watches are
he's
basically.
he's fixed everything that's been brought before him this entire show. Like, dude is one of the best supporting characters any main rider could have.
Honestly, I was
And
hoping he
you
would
know
just.
what? Okay, what I was saying is, in the previous episode, Zero was asking why was he like out about doing stuff during the apocalypse. Basically, now we know.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious this was what was happening, but yeah, now it's confirmed.
Right. I mean, honestly, I was hoping he would just fix like one watch, and it would have been just like base from Zi-O or something. That would have been great.
No,
Um,
fix them all.
fix them all. Yeah, he doesn't even use them.
Well,
Right? I
they've
mean,
got to be
like,
fixed, or he can't use his final form.
yeah, which final form? He gets another final form.
Yeah, he has 3 final forms.
Well, he wasn't expecting anybody to die this episode for some reason.
Yeah, really,
For
all
some reason,
Tsukuyomi
at
had
the
to
end of the
do
world.
was just go to her world to create a bridge so they could cross over. Like, the whole betray them to kill Schwartz thing was very unnecessary.
Okay, like, as cool as that is, like, your thing is like, oh yes, go to your world, make a bridge. I'm like, how? Right? Like,
Decade.
if Decade went with her and it's like, alright, here, I'm just connecting a portal, and like the end's like, alright, I'm just gonna open one on this side too. Fine. But I'm like, Tsukuyomi doesn't have this ability,
No,
right?
that's why they have
Schwartz,
Decade.
Right.
Exactly.
It was the purpose of having a writer for that world.
Oh yeah, I guess that's a good point. Maybe it's just Decade can just open portals to Rider World, so it made
That's it.
Yeah.
He can open portals to Rider worlds, which is why they needed a rider from that world, Tsukuyomi.
that's a good point. I mean, the other issue is like how okay, logistically this is stupid.
You start talking about logistic, it just gets boring.
Like if Build could get away with creating an entire new planet by merging two of them, I think Decade gets a pass on being able to do this.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Build made like a freaking world colliding engine. Um,
He literally just took Evil's bullshit magic and used that. Like, it wasn't that complicated for him.
Right, but if he gets to do that, Decade can make a portal that'll get everybody into a new planet.
So, we get our big showdown between Grand Zi-O and Schwartz, another decade. The the Grand Zi-O henshin is really long, but it is so good when used appropriately like it is here. And just seeing all the riders come in with their finishers, this was a well done fight for a tribute series.
yeah, that henshin's great. Um, it's really elaborate, but man, the fucking CGI work on that is pretty damn top notch. Um, okay, I just realized something. You know how like they're going off on like, aha, this is Kamen Rider Brain, the last of the Heisei riders. I'm like, no, technically that's Tsukuyomi now.
Well,
Right?
Brain.
To be honest,
Okay, so Brain is the last rider introduced in the Heisei era.
Tsukuyomi just
Yes.
happens to be a writer. She's a Reiwa era writer in
She-
a Heisei Rider show.
She's a post Heisei rider.
Okay, fine. I guess she gets nothing then.
I mean,
No,
no,
she doesn't.
she's still the last female Heisei rider. She was just introduced too late. She's the first female Reiwa rider.
Hell no, we're not. I'm not giving this fucking
No,
monkey that
she's-
title.
She's the first female rider introduced in the Reiwa era, but the official first Reiwa female rider is going to be Valkyrie in 01.
Yeah, because fuck that. I'm not giving like 53 seconds the title of first in the new era.
No, she's
Because
she's
fuck
the
that.
last Heisei female rider, and she's also the last one to die.
Yep. God damn it, man. Like, one episode. They couldn't do one episode.
Nope.
Like, fuck it. She didn't even.
Nope.
Like, the whole reason she died is because she did the stupid backstabbing nonsense. And what was the point? You could have won in a straight up fight. It was like 6-1.
This is
Right,
also the
like, you got,
finale
like-
of the curse.
Right. Oh, let's fucking hope.
Valkyrie is going to be
God,
the third main rider in 01, so I have a feeling that the
Dude.
Reiwa era will be a new era for female riders.
Yeah, I hope so. Here's the problem. Third riders are the ones who die the most.
Like who?
Like who?
Was.
Okay, like secondaries
Oh.
and third riders, but lightly third string riders.
I guess Chaser.
Yeah,
Was,
Chaser,
Kino,
Laser.
God damn it,
um,
Laser.
another
yeah,
Agito.
Yeah, another Agito. Like fuck. Usually, if you're the third rider, you die
You're
pretty.
dead.
Yeah, the secondary might die
Um,
near the end, but like third string rider, you're pretty much like 50-50 chance you're gonna be dead.
okay, but so some of the riders you mentioned were the fourth ones.
Yeah, Laser was a
Which one?
fourth rider.
I mean,
Another Agito was the fourth rider.
was
I don't count
Chaser
P3
and
as a
Breeze are-
rider.
sorry, Dragon Ball.
How dare!
You don't count what? Vashi, what did he say?
He said that he
Audio's
doesn't
cutting
count
out.
G3 as a rider.
Okay. Um. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
I mean, he has the
Yeah.
slowest
Okay.
tension, but he's still a rider.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Who were
Honestly,
we
yeah.
referring to? Because
Fourth string.
mine cut out.
Okay, I guess the only guarantee to not die is being first
Nope,
or
Ryuki.
die and not come back. Yeah, die and not come back. Yeah, yeah. I saved it. I saved it. Right? Yeah.
I mean,
Ryuki, Forze Decade.
if you want to get technical, Five
Technical-
dies too.
Yeah, Fies, Kenzaki.
How many times did Ghost die?
Oh god. Like 5 times at this point?
The entire start of that show was he died.
Yeah, he died, and then he died, and then he died, and then he died in the movie. And it's like,
It-
fuck off.
At least in the movie, him getting brought back to life made sense. A doctor actually saved his life.
Okay, you're talking about the X-Aid movie. I'm talking about the other
That's
movie.
the only time. That's the only one that's fucking valid.
Yeah. That's a good
Every
point.
other one is bullshit.
Yeah, that's insane. Okay, anyway, Valkyrie. Yeah, she's gonna live. But
We're praying for you.
God, we were praying for Tsukuyomi for one episode, and that's the last. But this one,
I will openly admit, as soon as I saw her henchman, my first thought, well, she's gonna die.
Like,
oh god,
Tsukuyomi, she was a lost cause anyways in the era of kill all the women, but I have faith in the new era. I have faith in the Reiwa era to let the female riders take the stage.
yeah, like the only way I could, like, okay, first one she's a third. Next goddamn writer show, they make her like they're not gonna put her as the first, like because there are no fucking female red rain, right? So whatever.
There was
that's not gonna
one.
happen.
Yeah, but she was like hiding
Temporary.
the show.
Is that from like Shinkenja?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Princess
Yeah,
Shinken
yeah.
Red.
All right, that's cool.
But
Right.
like,
Unless they make them the secondaries, like there's no guarantee that they can live. That's why I'm like, all right, third, that's cool, but I'm like, unless you make them the secondary rider, they're fucking like their chances of dying increase
What?
way too much.
what if Shinobi became canon though, and they brought it back, and his sister became a rider?
See, that'd be cool, but I'm like, I mean, like, maybe. The problem is like his sister is such a good supporting character that like making her a writer doesn't do anything in the show because the whole gimmick is like Shinobi in real life has to pretend to suck ass at magic, but in reality he's really good at it.
Oh yeah, that was a plot point.
Right. Whereas like if you
and-
make his sister writer too, then it's like what's the point?
And the whole purpose of it was he was supposed to protect her.
Right. Okay. But still,
Well,
they like
especially because she's
teased
not-
the
she's not,
silhouette
like, a regular
designs
human.
of like four
No.
more ninjas that could have been riders. Like one of them could have been a female.
Yeah, possibly. But like the thing is like she's not like a regular human. She's like the reincarnation or like a princess or something. Like she's important. So the thing is like they already have a plotline. Maybe like she gets a rider suit. That'd be cool. But unlikely.
I want to know what's up with Jiraiya though. His frog poster.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on. Like Shinobi, honestly, like it's a little too kiddie, but it's got really interesting fucking plot hooks in that show.
It has a lot of potential, and it's something I really kind of hope that they end up making.
Dude, even if it's just like for the app, I'd totally be down for like getting a couple episodes a season.
Okay, so back to Zi-O. Uh, when Sogo is in a tight spot, things go badly. Tsukuyomi is killed and Gaze is knocked out, and we get that big scene we were talking about where Gaze is dying in Sogo's arms and he's telling him, like, become the king of time. Become Ohma Zi-O if you have to. Be the greatest, kindest demon king.
Like this was a good moment. The only part I'm confused by is how did it go from that because when he mentions it, it even says his the like the little belt jingle, greatest kindest demon king.
That's probably because of his conviction.
Right. It's one of those. Is like I'm still wanting to. When did that change and why did that change?
I mean, what did it change? Because the thing is, like, Omazio still thinks of himself as that.
Right.
So, like, in his
but
mind.
It's more that I'm more I'm more interested by this point of seeing where that shift changed from him. Not so much the way he perceives it, but the way where his actions shift from actually.
So where he like can become Ohma Zi-O without destroying the world, like where he actually does become. Oh, that's a good point. Like, when did that transition happen? Because for the longest time, like, they've been hovering under the threat of he could still become Ohma Zi-O and ruin everything.
Right. I mean, it's like I want to. I'm at this point. I'm more interested in seeing the crux of where that shifted from, ignoring our timeline at this point. Like, I'm now interested in it where he became straight up the Demon King, like dictator, evil dictator of time. I want to know where that path started.
Well, you have to remember.
I wish you know what. Okay, what I was gonna say is let me say this small thing because there's noise outside. Basically, you know what? This is the time when we needed all those mini episodes on Blu-ray DVDs you get, like the Snipe specials and the special stuff. I wish we had gotten an Ohma Zi-O special because it's not important in the plot, but it is super interesting to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be interesting. The other thing though is Omazio is acknowledged like he had no friends.
That's what I was about to say. I once like pitched the idea of like, okay, so what's the difference here? And then we found out at some point that's like, oh, Sogo has friends that are like pulling him to be good. The Sogo that became Ohma Zi-O, like, he never had friends, so he never had those empathical ties to others. He just became the Demon King.
It all started when he cheated on his test.
Oh god damn it.
Like, what's the new timeline Sogo gonna do? He doesn't have time powers to cheat on his exam this time.
God damn it. No. Okay, the man who cheated on his test to pass high school would obviously come up with the solution of like, oh yeah, I guess my belt's not winning, I'll just cheat. Right? Because that's what happens. Like, Omazio's power is literally, hey, look, this is my final form. What does it do? It's the power of all riders. Hey, what? Oh, this isn't working? Ah, fuck it. It's just, hey, what's my final form? It's just the power of all riders. This time I win. Right? Like, it's literally the same fucking thing. He just reformatted it. Maybe it's because he's like, okay, instead of trying to use his power to do good, he's just like, fuck it. World's going to shit anyway. I'm just gonna make it into raw power, and that's what became Omazio. And because Omazio didn't have friends or anything, and his whole thing was like, I'm just gonna get all the rider power and become the king.
So what you're saying?
And he didn't care. In the original timeline, he didn't give a shit.
And in the new timeline that's created, he made sure to leave himself an opening to graduate high school.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like fucking Tsukuyomi is there, so I'm pretty sure she'd nag him enough to do it. Um, I mean, even fucking you saw like goddamn alternate timeline. Like even Gates was studying super hard to pass.
So Sogo does the unthinkable, and he henshins into Omazio. And Waz is just speechless, and Sogo has to tell him to rejoice. And we get Waz's final, like, celebration.
Uh, honestly, my favorite one. Just because Waz is sitting going, shit? Because by this point, that was the whole thing they were preventing. Which, yes, Waz was still kind of wanting this, but at the same time, he was to the point where he wanted what Sugo wanted, which was fuck Omazio.
Right. My point then becomes it's like, well, oh no, he can't become a Mazia because the world's gonna get destroyed. I'm like, it's literally falling apart. Right? Like it can't get any worse than this. Like there's like black holes opening up, like fucking grungy or like murdering people left, right, and center. Like you've got like the weirdo like mirror world dragonfly shit running around. Giant enemy crabs. Um like that. I love how like yeah, that's the Ryuki monster we put in. The giant enemy crab. Why?
No,
So
no,
you
no.
can
The
use
crabs are
time machine.
Hibiki.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I mean. Hibiki. Um, so you put it in just so you can throw in one of the time mech fights one last time. Even though they totally ignored the fucking robot.
Speaking
What
of
happened to the robot?
Speaking of Ryuki monsters, though, Omazio just straight up punches Drag Blacker in the face and it explodes.
Dude, yeah, I know, I saw that too. Oh, he just freaking does the Ryuki, like, vent punch thing. Dude, that was so fucking badass.
Oh. So, Schwartz is gleeful because he wanted to push Sogo to the point of becoming Omazio. Omazio's power over time is greater than his own, and he wants to absorb that power. Unfortunately, Omazio is too strong for him and he can't absorb the power.
Yeah, I love how he's pretty much like, what, you thought you could fucking take my power or kill me?
Like,
It's like, my power is the power of all writers. I'm like, you know, that kind of makes sense, honestly. Like, um, his like decades thing of like, oh, I'm just borrowing your power, I'm just traveling through, or just all that shit. But like, if you really just had like exactly what fucking Omazio just did, it's like just punch drag. I mean, like, you just punch the mirror world dragon to dust, right? Like it was nothing. Because that's the power of a fucking writer, or like multiple writers. Like,
that's the power of
yeah,
all
it's pretty
riders.
busted. I also like how his power is to rewrite time because that's one of those like weird like Showa writer things that's they've done like twice. Which
His
is like when they get together, they kind of mess with time every once in a while. I mean, it's only ever happened like twice, so it's fine. But I'm like,
his rider kick
you've
is
got
called
enough.
End Times.
Damn, that's badass. The only thing that kind of annoyed me is like, oh, you summon in like Wizard and he loses. I'm like, that's fucking Wizard Infinity. It's like hard as diamond, super fast, and his axe can kill Megazords. Like, how are you losing to these fucking pissant like monsters? Like, what the fuck was he even fighting? Who was that bow guy? Was that
Okay. Okay. He was fighting against Evo the Black Hole and one of the I don't remember who the bull guy was. That guy and James D.S. Cronus. So yeah.
That was the Sagittarius zodiac.
Oh, okay, because I'm like, it's either from Forze, because I haven't seen Forze, or maybe this is like a really late Hibiki, but I'm like, I don't think Hibiki had like writer villains as the final.
They did not. Hibiki's final villain is a forest full of monsters, and they have to seal it away again before it unleashes all the monsters.
Yeah, see, that's fitting for Hibiki.
I feel
Also,
I feel that was all Wizard's punishment for overusing that final form.
no, that's shit. But to be fair, it made sense why Wizard used that because like that's literally his power. It's the One Ring that made from his abilities. So it's just a Kiva thing all over. I mean, the reason Kiva overused his final form is because his main suit was super heavy. Um, yeah, it's just weird seeing these final forms lose to these like earlier ass grunts. Where I'm like, these guys, like, all right, final Grangi, tough dude, but he's really in the grand scheme of things, like he's not that tough, right? So it's just one of those things where it's like, oh no, I've summoned all the monster from the previous rider. I'm like, all right, that's a bit of a challenge, but like realistically, because riders are so busted now, like they should be able to fucking hit this time.
I
Oh,
mean, did you summon God?
Okay,
right? Did you summon Gaim? Or I was gonna say like, okay, yeah, you summon an army. I'm like, we have like O's, like one of his combos can just counter most of this. Like what Sogo tends to do, like why does he keep throwing out O's as his first thing, like all the time?
I mean, if you're gonna throw somebody out like that, throw at Agito. He kicked God's ass.
Right, exactly. It's like O's freaking Zio's favorite Pokemon. Um, but
He's
yeah,
gonna get them
Agito
all.
would have been right. Also, like the whole like white and black thing going on. I'm like, oh, with like Tsukuyomi and Schwartz. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty decent enough Agito kind of throwback because like, oh right, two people who can save their world, sort of thing. Whatever. Um, that was decent. Like that's the thing. Like Zio has like interesting throwbacks, but it's like when they finally come down to it, they just kind of choose the simplest path going forward, and it's like it's not terrible, but it's not like super satisfying.
So Sogo has become Omazio. Waz is happy for him. He can now rule over all he sees before him. Sogo tells him, "No, I'm destroying all of this. This is doomed." And he has a last conversation with his older self. He is going to be destroying this timeline to create a new one. He won't be ruling through military might like his older self did. He'll be ruling through virtue.
At
Well,
some
I mean
point.
that's what like older Zio, like Amazio says that Zio's doing.
Yeah, and he says, like, hey, you have a chance to be king right now. You're not going to get this again in a new timeline. And Sogo just says, but I will. It's my destiny. I was born to be king.
Yeah, see, I wish he would have just said fuck it, I don't care, and just done the writer thing of like, yeah, being a writer is more important or whatever. Or it's like I don't want to be king. That would have completed his arc, but I guess it's because it's for the movie because he's getting another fucking form,
Yeah.
which is basically another Amazio. So, yeah.
no. Okay, the movie already took place
That-
in between the episode 45 and 46.
That
or something.
Omazio form came
next movie
from
is the-
Overquartzer. Yeah.
Okay, so what the?
So I
Alright.
saw a short trailer for it. There is going to be a new movie where they become riders again. And so the Grand Zi-O watch. Imagine Gaze holding a red one with all the secondaries on it.
For what Gates?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Um, yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like, I don't know how. What are you gonna give like Waz? Like, oh yeah, here's the power of all the like that doesn't really quite work. But otherwise, like, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's sort of the same thing that they did with like the end when he gets his like ultimate form or whatever.
his ultimate form is basically the rider villains from the movies rather than secondary riders. But yeah,
Uh, and I do love the comment that Sogo asked, like, is the power of Omazio really that of destruction? And the reply is, destruction has to come before creation. And then as you,
Look, we've gotten that phrase before 10 years ago.
speaking of which, cut to fucking Decade and the end, kicking back and watching the world end.
Right? That was so good. So good. Man, I love seeing them just hang out. It's fucking awesome. Oh, dude, yo. You know how we're like, how fucked is the world? Like, yeah, I forgot about like the Bugster virus and shit. Because you see that like affecting people. That was like last episode, but I'm like, yeah, you are fucked up. Like, tech doesn't work. You get infected by fucking Bugster virus. Like Grongi murdering you or King Grongi. Shit going on, like the orphanage running out. Oh, we maybe. But like, yeah, and then you see like the ghost villains too. I'm like, yeah, there's like literally no escape. Because sometimes they're like, oh, bad shit's happening. You could go here and hide, or some percentage of people might survive. But I'm like the Gaim apocalypse, right? Like they're like, right, if we turn enough people into riders, they might survive. I'm like, there's no surviving this. Like you literally can't do anything without like one of the rider like villains like affecting, right? Like there's no place to hide, right? You can't even feel bad because then Phantom, right? Like you're fucked.
In this new timeline, though, we cut back to.
Also,
Oh,
also like you can't have anything fucking shiny ever because
no
pure will
reflective
mark.
surfaces, yeah.
You're right. You're dead. Like, god damn. This
Yeah,
is
the world is
insane.
fucked. That's why they abandoned it. It's like, this isn't. You can't save this anymore. It's too far gone. Um, so, in the new timeline, we cut back to something we saw in the first episode of Zi-O with him at school, and he put down King in his career for him, and one of his fellow students flips him over to try and knock some sense into him. Except this time, that student is Gaze. And then Tsukuyomi thinks he's being too violent, so she flips Gaze over. And then Aura and are also here, and refers to Sogo as King. And Wazi's just kind of chilling out nearby, chronicling the new history in the new book. And that is the end of Kamen Rider Zi-O. Until we get like 3 post-series movies.
yeah, like Case is getting one. I think Tsukuyomi might get one as well. Maybe was. Oh wait, no, Overcorso was his movie. Maybe not was.
I mean, honestly, like, why the fuck is Aura there? I mean, I know the answer. The answer is like, oh,
They
right.
took pity
The
on
writer
her.
is super. No, the writer is super lazy, and they're like, okay, well, Schwartz was the real problem. We don't have to deal with any of the other shit. But like, yeah, you can say he took pity, but I'm like, it's not really true. But
Okay.
whatever.
So,
Schwartz is. I mean,
Okay,
Soga's
you know,
the guy now.
I'm gonna read off Henshin for Pai's thoughts real quick, and then we can go through and give our own thoughts. So, she felt that rewriting time was an okay ending, but it felt a bit too cheap. She didn't think that Aura and deserved a happy ending. Uh, the show is pretty mediocre for her, but she enjoyed the cast and seeing how they grew into their characters, especially Waz.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, Zio has like decent actors. Like, was probably the best one. Okay, that's not true. Like, can fucking act if he was given shit, but like was definitely had the most like interesting or like most range of stuff to do. Um, but yeah, like Gates kind of came along later on. Like Tsukuyomi was always kind of decent. She just needed more shit to do. Uh, Schwartz was like he's well acted. He's just like barely a character though. Same with like the other Tanjaka.
Like my issue cast wise was like it wasn't so much the actors, it was more the writing itself was the problem for me. It was like because everybody who like everybody nailed their characters and the growth of their characters. It's just the writing didn't hold up to par for the characters. Because like Zero said, like was fantastic. It just he wasn't capitalized on. Like there wasn't enough for him to really feel like a full character, even with his little redemption arc. And then or was just her entire role was let's be a bitch.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The uncle, like fucking best supporting character in like forever. You know, that guy,
Oh,
definitely the best character in this show.
I fully agree, especially in the episode where he basically looks at Sogo and goes, "I should have spanked your ass as a kid."
That's right. He did say something like that. He said
Yeah,
he should have
he
been more.
basically
He should have said he should have
disciplined
disciplined
him
him
more.
more.
Like even with the stuff that like the points where he is literally just there to kind of remind the characters, yeah, your guys are supposed to be doing something. And then the let's make food that nobody's gonna eat. Like I felt it was to the point where I felt bad with him that happened enough. That's like, oh look, you just made all this food, everybody left. Oh, poor man. Or the constant let's go get chicken.
God damn, the Let's Go Get Chicken is freaking great though. Um, that being said, like honestly, leftovers. But they're all fucking getting leftovers. Because he makes so much. But like that's really how you do a supporting character, where he's there, he comes in when he needs to. Not overly comedic, but he does have his moments, and like super nice and understand. The problem is like he's a little. I mean, like that's a little boring because it's like, oh, he's so damn supportive. But like technically they do justify it, whereas like yeah, Soga didn't have any friends, so now even though these guys are a little weird, like at least they're Soga's friends, so he's like giving them wiggle room, right? Which makes him freaking great.
Like, and they did a good job of growing his character too, because like when it starts out, he's just there to serve as like a way to push the plot a little bit forward, like to nudge the plot. Like he's the plot ex machina, for lack of a better term. It's like he came into being his own character, right? Beyond just that. And yeah, he to me by far he's the best character on the show, beyond Waz. Waz is hands down the best. And I will fight whoever argues with me.
No, you're right.
I don't know. DM's pretty good too, but
Was the non-character? I to be honest, White was better.
yeah, I agree.
It still was.
It still was. It still was.
Alternate
Okay,
timeline
here's the
was.
Was like the best actor in this show because he gets like the most shit to do. But yeah, realistically, like he doesn't have much of a character arc. But yeah, White has better.
There was like
actual
that period of
character arc.
time where he had nothing to do, so they just had him eat food in front of the camera.
Dude, that should have gone somewhere instead of. But well, I guess it's like a really small running gag. That should have really gone.
He went from eating food on camera to trying to throw Sugo a birthday party.
Yeah. I guess, but damn, that's an uninteresting conclusion to that arc.
Uh, there was a time early on where I once told Vashi, uh, if all I'm getting at this show is nostalgic hype, I grow bored when they do their own thing, especially when their own thing pitches ideas for better shows I'd rather be watching. Because this was early on in the White Walls arc, and we had just saw a glimpse of Shinobi, and I went, I'd rather be watching that show. The White Walls arc ended up getting a lot better, and the show did overall. Uh, but I like whenever I think about what could I rewatch Z, all I can think about is like, man, the early episodes would be a slog to get through, to get back to the good stuff.
Right. Leading into which, like, what did you think of all the, I guess, like cameos and like the throwbacks to previous writers and stuff throughout the show? Because like we're like this is the end, this is the finale of the show, so we can pretty much talk about the whole show at this.
Like,
So I want to make one point, and this is my thoughts on the whole of Zi-O. Decade did it better, in my personal opinion. Because to me, the whole purpose of this, like when I sat down and watched Decade versus when I sat down and watched Zi-O, at no point did Zi-O, and during Zi-O, did I sit there and see these previous characters and go, if I hadn't seen any of this stuff, I'd want to go see what this was about. Whereas in Decade, which that's the series I started with, it made me want to go watch the early Heisei Rider stuff. Because I got glimpses into the world beyond, oh hey, look, there's a character in a suit.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that, but the problem is like, if you okay, this is the problem with Decade. It's like if you've known the previous writers and you saw Decade, like that pissed a lot of people off because it's like, what the fuck is this?
Well, right.
Right? Like these guys are nothing. No, that's what I'm saying. Like Zio's a little bit better, where it's like, oh, okay, the actual characters are the actual characters from the show.
Right.
Decade
Well,
had way
like,
more interesting shit going on.
Well, that's why I made the comment. It's like, if I had never seen any writer and I started with Zi-O, none of this would make me want to watch anything previous.
yeah, like,
Whereas Decade
okay,
gave
wait.
me that.
I mean, like Kabuto though.
Okay.
That might be about the only one.
well, I was about to say, like, the Kabuto tribute is my favorite one, and I love it, and that's coming from someone who saw Kabuto and like seeing what they did with those characters post Kabuto. If you're someone who has never seen Rider before and you see that, would you have that same impact? Would you be curious enough to want to go and watch Kabuto?
Having not seen all of Kabuto, I can honestly say no, that did not increase my interest in the show whatsoever. It really didn't. Mainly because a lot of it was a bunch of references and stuff that you have to watch the show to understand.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that Kabuto Tribute is my favorite one because I saw Kabuto to the end. It's not my favorite Rider series, but boy was that the best of all the tribute of all of them.
Like, to me, this is where you had the dichotomy between the two shows, where Decade seemed like one of those, let's hook in new people and get them to want to watch all of this, whereas Zi-O was literally a, hey, everybody who's been watching this, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember this?
I mean, to be fair, it's the last of the era, so
Yeah,
it
this
kinda
is
makes sense
for
to
the
make a
long-term
tribute.
fans.
Right, but
Right.
like Decade
Like,
was supposed
honest-
to be kind of the end of an era too.
Yeah, but well, Decade was a really fucked up take because like Toei had never done like that kind of tribute show. I mean, like there'd been tribute seasons, like Kabuto is one of them.
To
But anniversary seasons, but like there's never been like a proper tribute one. The thing is, like Decade backfired so hard that they made Gokaiger better.
to clarify one point, Decade was supposed to just be a filler series, anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Here's the problem with Decade is like, okay, if you took Decade, the problem is like Decade makes weird alternate versions of Rider worlds. So it's like, yeah, the plot's interesting, but it's like this nothing like the actual world. So like, I wish like the perfect show would have been like a combination of like Zi-O and stuff, where it's like you do the Decade shit, except
But
you
with the
put like the
actual
actual
cast.
characters in it.
Right. Like that would have been to me the perfect way to do this, especially considering the fact that 90% of this fucking show is literally fucking Kamen Rider Decade.
Yeah, it's true. Um, Honestly, yeah, that's like Decade's way more interesting of a show. It's way more busted though. Like Zi-O is not as good,
Well, in
but
fairness, they got
it's
halfway through it and then went, "Oh shit, we need to make more."
right. Um, but even then, like uh, I don't know, man. My
And
problem is like Kiva and Decade, right? Like first show was Kiva, and then like Kiva Tribute and Decade is fucking awful. So I'm like super pissed off at
but
that.
but at the same time, it's like it was still kind of accurate in the fact of,
Yeah, not really. I mean,
"Fuck you, I
like
don't want to be king." Shit, I have
yeah,
to be king.
yeah, that's great. Until you turn your like you turn fucking Kuga into that walking train wreck,
Zero.
and then you turn Kiva into just a kid.
Do you prefer Zio's Kiva tribute?
Okay. Um. Hey, at least it had Jiro in it. At least it had Jiro in it. Okay, here's the thing. Kind of, yes. Because at least the ending of that episode, like the second half, like the Jiro shit, and then like the ending is like this is super Kiva, right? Whereas like the Kiva episode in Decade is very meta. So that's the problem with Decade is like it's interesting, but it's like one, it's not how the shows are, and two, it kind of is, but it's on a very meta level. So like the Kiva tribute makes sense, but only on a meta level, right? Where it's like, oh right, Kiva, what's it? It's about a legacy hero, so about a kid who doesn't want to be king or doesn't know how to live in the world and so they literally turned him into a child, right? So like on a meta level, that storyline works. As a tribute, it's fucking ass. Uh, Whereas the Zi-O one is like this is a very Zi-O story, and then they crammed in the fucking like goddamn wizard power. I mean, not wizard, a Waz power up in there too, which kind of derailed it. But the ending is a very Kiva fucking moment. So it's like the both terrible, but both terrible in two different ways.
Can we agree on one thing though? Zio did the Ryuki special better.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
I hate
Okay, so
Trial by Rider. I hate it.
Both times.
Trial by Rider was fun, but it's dumb as hell.
They did it better with
Abyss is
the
cool though.
This is cool. He's so cool that he basically replaced Fem. Never to be seen ever again.
Okay.
Right.
Decade, Drago.
and that's just ignoring the Rider Time special.
Uh,
God.
so Decade, Drago.
Eh.
What are your thoughts on Zio as a series?
It had. It certainly gets better, which is nice, instead of the opposite, which has happened. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't rewatch it anytime soon. But, yeah, it did have some good moments and some good cameos for all the lackluster cameos they had in the beginning. So, and it was enjoyable, but I didn't love it. I'm hoping this next series is something that I can actually love.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's like Zio's problem. Is like, okay, not even Zio. Like Zio at least kind of got better. My biggest problem is like, we've gotten like three shows back to back to back. I don't know. Okay, who was before X8? Ghost?
Yes.
Okay, God, no. So four shows in a row with bad fucking last arcs. Where it just drags out. Like, God damn it! I hope the next era has their final act figured out.
Okay, so the writer for Zero One wrote Xaid.
Yeah, I know, which Chronos, right? And
Chronos,
like
yeah.
he bitched the like non-ending complaining about Chronos.
He
Which,
was a
though,
bad final villain.
but to be fair, it wasn't the worst ending.
Oh God, it sure
Out of the
wasn't.
out of the last four shows, it's the best one.
Yeah. Um, so I was looking at like when I was doing well, I didn't really make the background. It's just a CD cover with just the Zio logo, which is a different image. But I was just looking at like the rider images and thinking like, oh, this is like Heisei, right? So you look, and it's like the first five are like fucking solid, and then it goes to the next five, which is questionable, and then the next five, which are like, super experimental, and then the next five is like if you stuck Xaid and switched it out for Wizard, right? You would have like the worst five, or like really not like they're not terrible, but they're not worth rewatching. Shows I'm like, ah, shit, this is how we're closing out Heisei. Um, right? Like swap out Wizard for like Xaid,
Hmm.
and you have like a really experimental and interesting period in Heisei. So it goes like solid to questionable to experimental to what the fuck is this? Why are the final arcs all trash? Right? Well, at least Zio had a decent final arc. Its ending is kind of dumb.
Yeah, if I was to rewatch any part of Zio, it would be the Kabuto tribute and then the Another Zio 2 stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we want, we can go over all the tributes. Like,
Uh,
Kuga, not great. Um,
Tid is still the
Uh,
best time jacker.
oh yeah, he's fucking great. Thoughts on the Kuga stuff, you guys?
okay, I would say Cougar Tribute is good because it actually, I really like the fact that it was more about the idea of Cougars and his importance to revival of Kamen Rider than the rider himself. Which on a like a story level, like I wanted to see the Cougars characters, but on a meta level, I really like it. I think I think I'm one of the only few people who does. But yeah, and I also since I also
That's
enjoyed the movie a lot.
that's a fair point. That movie was pretty decent. I was just thinking of the show, but you're right. The movie definitely pretty decent. Anything, or do we go to the Agito one? Rashi?
I've got nothing.
Alright. Agito?
I
Thoughts?
liked that Agito was just himself, and that hadn't changed. Like when he henshins and starts fighting, like he is fighting like a pro. He makes every move count and like just goes for it. And then when they do the big team up, Believe Yourself starts playing. And why did they not use more traditional rider music?
Oh god, yeah. Like, Agito was so solid. Like, yeah, it's the perfect thing of like, yeah, previous writer comes back, and then you connect it to your plot, and he gives like solid advice, and he fights well, and he's like in character. It's like this is the standard. This show should have been.
Right, like Agito was like the perfect tribute. Well, Agito and Blade, like just
Uh,
everything about the Agito tribute to me was amazing. It was just weird to see Soichi not have long hair.
Oh, I know. Like all the freaking early Heisei writers don't have long hair. I mean, Takemi grew his back out, but damn, the first time he showed up without long hair freaked the fuck out of me. In like the movies, but like every time he's shown up since, he's gotten like his long hair, so that's good.
Uh, Ryuki, the another Ryuga stuff we got in the show was pretty nice. Seeing the Zi-O writers try to figure out how to handle Mirror World, as well as we got some touching stuff between Shinji and his old boss. But the Rider Time special for Ryuki, just a perfect like recreation of Ryuki show and just a great throwback to old Heisei styles.
I mean, I feel like it's a good throwback to their fight, not to actual Ryuki because like Ryuki more character should happen, but like 2/3 Ryuki, so that's not bad.
Yeah, I did like Rider Time Ryuki. Like, I'm not really a huge fan of Ryuki, so Rider Time Ryuki didn't actually invoke a lot of stuff in me. It was so I was a bit this one. What do you call it? And not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed about it, but it was enjoyable. But I did enjoy the connection between Shinji and his old boss from the Ryuki tribute in the show because it is more focused on the character of Shinji and the owner and the boss. Even if I'm not a fan of Shinji, I did really like that. So and also the creative way of them bringing Ryuga from what do you call it? The Kamen Rider, the movie here in this world was pretty neat. So yeah, it was fun. I did enjoy that special.
Like with Ryuki being like the second show I watched, I enjoyed the hell out of both the Rider Time special and the one in series. Again, just did not look like fucking Shinji.
Oh, I know, with the short hair. Holy
With
fuck.
not just the short hair, but the bowl cut, the dark hair. It's like, uh, who the hell are you?
Like Kenzaki like threw me off. Okay, like Takemi threw me off, but I'm like, all right, okay, still looks like Takemi. And like Kenzaki showed up, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then he kind of grew on. And then like Shinji showed up, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
Like,
god damn,
like
it's so bad.
between the two of them, at least Shinji with Soichi from Agito, you could still see, you know, Suichi in him.
Yeah, like Suichi, I can kind of get. I'm like, all right, he kind of cut off his hair because he's like a famous chef now.
But like
Right,
his
like-
movements, his facial expressions are exactly the same. Shinji looks like it's an entirely different dude.
Right. And it's weird because like clearly in the show the focus was on Ryuga, and in the Rider Time special he's lost his memory. So it's also focusing on Ryuga and shit. So it's like like they're doing a very character focused stuff, but it's not Shinji from the show that you remember. It's like it's him, but he's very different, right? So it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly, but yeah, he looks so different. But fucking Ren looks basically the same, dude. I mean, his hair's slightly less spiky.
Fies was mostly a throwaway tribute, though I did enjoy seeing Takumi and Kusaka interact with each other some more.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's good to see those guys back and like the fight suits and again, but this like this is not their characters, and rolling that into the Forze shit and like goddamn that like special not great.
Alright, Vashi, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you guys. It's been an interesting end to Heisei, and I look very, very interested in Reiwa. But
Talk to you later.
I'll see you guys next week.
Rather than go through all the tributes, I'm just gonna stick point out the ones that actually meant something to me. Uh, so the Blade tribute was great and was a solid
Yes.
ending to Blade's franchise. I enjoyed Hibiki's tribute because it kind of gave closure on a character that was left ambiguous at the end, and also uh, showed what the future for you know the Hibiki riders is. Um, Kabuto I felt was super fucking solid. I enjoyed seeing Kick Hopper be another Kabuto. Uh, and that's
Deno should have gotten the damn watch in the movie. Like, it makes no sense. Why did we have to do the shows?
well, I enjoyed seeing Dan return in the O's tribute. The tribute itself felt a little flat, so it was mostly just his character that carried it forward.
Yeah, I mean, and also like Edgy, because Edgy's freaking great, even though he's not a writer. Like, he still has like exactly his character down, and that's fucking amazing.
Wizard tribute was disappointing because would have loved to have seen Haruto return, but I guess that couldn't have been done.
Yeah, I would have fucking been fine with Mage. I mean, like, I like Nito, but it's like he barely did anything in that thing.
And when it comes to like the original run of the tribute episodes in early Zi-O, the Ghost one was the best one of those, like that first set. It Ghost actually got involved with what was going on, and it actually mattered that Ghost was a rider. Uh,
Right. It's sort of like that's the like template that they used later on so well. That was probably like the first one that worked out. So
yeah.
that's good.
So yeah, those are really just the ones I have anything to say about. The rest were either bland or fell short of their potential.
What? I don't know. I think that Decade tribute was pretty good. You mean the show? Yes, I mean the show.
Okay, I was thinking like, wait, what decade tribute?
Dude, the whole thing of him like giving him his power because this has half of my power in it. Like, fuck, that's such a genius callback of like why Deck handed him his power up.
Uh, okay. What I was gonna say is, what do you call it? I enjoyed the Kuga tribute. I enjoyed a double tribute only to the extent that Eternal came back and Eternal and Double had a fight. I really liked that part because it was freaking great to see Eternal and then have the double music play, even if Double wasn't actually there, but it was Sogo as Double instead. That was fun. I enjoyed the I kind of enjoyed the Dan Kuroto and O's tribute. That was pretty nice. That was kind of creative for using Dan Kuroto as an embodiment of greed for the O's tribute. Then I enjoyed the Forza tribute. What I mean is just go watch Bleach, the live action movie. Uh,
Nice.
then the wait the within Ghost. Yeah, the Ryuki one was good. I really like that. I like the Blade one was super great. Then Hibiki one. I after watching Hibiki, I'd say in my opinion, even if I like Kakia wasn't my favorite character, I think both Zi-O and Decade had a really good Hibiki tribute. That did the two different things. Like Decade 4 more focused on the younger generation of heroes like Asumu and all becoming Hibiki. Like they right the wrong from the Hibiki show. It's like the second half never happened. Like the after that was basically Decade showed us the conclusion to after episode 29, like what happens. But in here, like they actually are paying tribute with what are they are righting the wrong of making Kiria like a more grown up character, and it was a really nice thing. Then I liked Agito tribute was really great. Kabuto tribute was really great. Kiva tribute was okay. Even if Kiva tribute wasn't good, it was so annoying. I kind of enjoyed it. And yeah, I mean, like how the really weird romantic subplots that Inoue has in most of his shows, especially Kiva.
I don't know. I mean, like Kiva's
That
romantic
they
subplots are pretty good, but
no,
I love
yeah,
the freaking
it
joke
is
of like
great.
all of them freaking just calling Sogo out. Like, what is this goddamn like lost cat backstory? Then just like constantly making fun of him for it. Like, goddamn, that was so good.
Yeah, that was really great. Uh, and
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
forgot
I think
freaking Yuri showed up in that at the end. That was
yeah,
cool.
and even Geo was there. So yeah, Kiva, Decade, Double O's, Force Wizard, Time, Drive, Go, Drive. I have to see the movie, so no. Um, Go.
I
Deno
mean,
was really great. I enjoyed.
like the chase stuff was okay, but I'm like, this is literally his drive plotline, just done all over again. So it's like, what? Why
Yeah.
even do that?
So yeah, I'll have to watch the movie for the Drive tribute. So Drive tribute, I'm indefinite hiatus. Then what do you call it? Yeah, Deno was really great both times. Like the Deno crossover episode, the Deno tribute episode, and the movie. This movie had Takeru Sata as Ryotaro back after so many years, and that I legit was getting teary eyed because Deno is my first Japanese Kamen Rider show, so I have a huge attachment to that show. Um, and yeah, so I really enjoyed that because and also wait what Kuga one was okay, yeah. Other than that, I don't think I really liked any. Okay, yeah, the Bill tribute, right? Not the one in the first episode. That was bad. But from the Heisei generation forever, like Bill actually teaching him like what his own show's message of identity and of existence crisis and all that stuff was. That I really thought would worked well with the movie, and it was really great, and it showed tribute to what Bill is, and that I really enjoyed. Other than that, yeah, that's about it. Other Foze and Fives was not great, uh, and yeah, and most of the early stuff wasn't not really great at all. Um, Ghost tribute was fine. I did like it, but I think so. Even if the tributes are great, I think my favorite part has to be the White Wars arc. That's that one where like we saw two of the best characters were the center of that part, that was White Wars and Gaze, and that's it. And also they were trying to do interesting stuff with Ur, which went nowhere. But yeah, other than that, I think that Zi-O was fine. I do like Zi-O a lot, but it has a lot of because I'm a Kamen Rider fan and I've seen all Heisei shows. I mean, including movies, specials, and everything. So yeah, as a fan and as someone who has seen all the 20 Heisei riders and all of the other stuff that is like movies and stuff, I think as a fan I was really pleased with what I got. It's not as good as Gokaiger, or it's not even but compared to Decade, I think I'll disagree with Vashi and say Zi-O is a lot better because it actually has characters I can like, and characters go through some development. Because for me, characters are much a better part of the show than the story itself. Even if the story is like not great, if I can enjoy the characters, I enjoy the show basically. That is why like Zi-O, I do like it. Except I wish the villains would have been a lot better in this show because. But again, I don't blame them as such because they had to juggle all the actors and play stuff. Placing them in certain episodes is kind of, and allowing the villains to develop is also kind of like difficult. I don't, but that's their job as a writer, and then they hired the guy who can't write long form storytelling and is only good in short episodes. Yeah, so I'm pretty like I like Zi-O. I'm it's kind of because I'm biased because I'm a Kamen Rider fan. As a show, I wouldn't don't say it works a lot, but well, I think a lot of others they could have done a lot of things better, but I do like it.
Decade. How do you feel?
I would agree with pretty much all of your takes on the tributes. Um, yeah, two of the real the areas that it was kind of lacking on were the music and the fights. Like it did have some great fights, don't get me wrong, but like listening to Exade's soundtrack, which I do have, like the music just pumps you up so much and it just makes the fights like three times better all the time. And this soundtrack is just like kind of weird or boring most of the time. And then some of the fights, it's just show up, use your finisher, have some dialogue. So, yeah, I'm hoping since we have the Exade Rider that we get some pretty awesome fights next series. And music.
Okay. Anything anyone else wants to discuss about Zi-O?
No, well, one thing I think the I already told the thing about this Zi-O being the best decade tribute is also would be an understatement because Decade was practically a supporting character here, and I really enjoyed him in the show. That one I really did like, and I also like that finally that now I don't have to deal with continuity problems anymore because now Zi-O basically said all the Kamen Rider worlds are separate. Like there's no shared continuity between them, even the ones that kind of had shared continuity. So yeah, I'm pretty good with that. I think Rider Worlds being like a separate thing would make for a better thing because I don't think anybody's gonna spend time in Toei for world building. Because the reason why Marvel Cinematic Universe and all work is because they actually spend time building the world. But after double O's and fours they stopped. Like they don't didn't build the world well at all. So because they wanted to superhero types and stuff, which really was what do you call it? It wasn't Kamen Rider isn't suited for world building, or they haven't even if it is, they haven't tried it well. So Zi-O undoing all of the shit that they did in Decade is I think that was a better choice because now you can have the next Rider show stand on its own legs and then have a next Rider show without worrying about why how this world is how it is. Like you won't be able to see a 0-1 crossover with X8 because X8 is in a different world now. So yeah.
I mean, that's what we think is gonna happen, which makes sense. Is Toei gonna be smart enough to back off the crossovers? I don't know.
No.
Hopefully not. I mean, hopefully they are. Like, I don't know how Zi-O won. Like, here's the thing. I feel like they've abandoned the connected worlds thing, which kind of sucks. But I'm like, at this point, they're barely using it, so why not? Um, and two, it's like maybe they'll keep it, but they'll keep their own continuity going forward. Unlikely at this point.
01 is going to get a crossover movie with Zi-O.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
But again, he can travel through worlds, so yeah, it doesn't matter. With Zi-O, it makes
Right.
sense, and
Like-
01 and forward, they can actually build up the world. So
Right. I mean, like they could, but I don't know if they will. Um, whatever. It's fine. Honestly, like, yeah, it would be really nice if they use like proper continuity and well, maybe not even continuity, but just like decent world building or some kind of like it doesn't have to be major. It could kind of just be like Blade, where like it feels like they're in a world that's had Kamen Riders for a while. Even though you don't see any of the other riders, that would be cool. But like, I don't know. As long as the show's good, I guess all this extra stuff doesn't really matter.
Ah. What what kind of change to the formula are you would you want to see in the new era of Rider? Anything?
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like definitely, definitely. All right. So, definitely end of
Uh-huh.
the Curse of the Female Riders.
Yes.
That's that's for number one. Uh, Two, like getting one that's at least a secondary that doesn't die and goes through the full show. Um, right. But like formula wise, like I would say like fucking lay off the collectathon, but they won't. So in that case, I say like do it like O's or Blade, where like spread that shit around and have it matter. Like you don't need like ultimate form. I mean, I guess they can never just help themselves. They're gonna give them more powered up forms. But like if you're gonna get the collecting gimmicks, like one, don't go crazy like build with like fucking 60 of these things. That's it. Like Blade, you can kind of get away with it because like cards. But then again, each rider only had 13 of them, and it's not like they were using all fucking 13. You know. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna do the collecting thing, like at least study Blade and see how it did it and why it worked. Or O's, where it's like, oh, each person having a certain number of these matters. Like, have that act.
Well, for me, I think the change in formula would be like having the female Kamen Rider not like dying literally, or having it be a bit of a common thing rather than a special thing, so that even if one dies, it's not a big good deal because there's so many. Like and that would be appreciated because you don't want to get because it actually actually would be a really good thing. I would also say in the Reva era Kamen Rider, what do you call it? Yeah, the I would say that no, there's not much to be changed because Rider shows have now become like every season a lot changes half the time. So I don't mind like there being no particular change, but the change should be in rather two things. Like there shouldn't be I don't know collectathons. Let's instead of making a collectathon, rather than that, just make it so that even if the rider has multiple forms and stuff, just give that to other characters rather than shoving like 100 forms to one rider. That's one thing that I kind of and do it like the mixture of O's and Blade basically if you are doing kind of doing collectathon. Uh, but I would rather say lay off collectathons. And also the second thing I would rather like is I wish just a toy department to not interfere or just to not make it so that they have. I know it's a toy selling show, but I would rather like them to what do you call it? Toy department should kind of let's say let the people do whatever they want instead of trying to shove the toy down our throat. Uh, because it the, even if Build is one of my favorite shows in the Heisei era, like the three of my favorite one of the three of my favorite shows. But the collectathon thing was it was at first it made sense because each country gets 20, but Build at the end has all of them. So it kind of was pointless, and I really didn't want to buy the full bottles because of that. And they added more. Rather than that, I would rather have them, organically introduced, or like, be a background thing, so that, you don't have to focus on them a lot more. Like how early build basically just turned into that form, and then, it is not mentioned as such. But in, but at least just don't overdo that. Otherwise, because the formula they have, the thing that they have built for the past few years since Gaim, even if I don't like some of the shows, but the thing is, they do work a lot better to tell both serialized and episodic story at the same time, instead of, like, having one kind of one track thing that had been going on in Deno, Kiva, Double O's, and O's, Forza, and Wizard, where everything had to be a two-parter. Like, that was a bit. I know that's a. I even if I did like the shows, some of the shows there, it was a bit too annoying. So I do like the serialized format that they have brought up, but I would say have a bit more episodic storytelling, even in those serialized shows, so that, you don't have to stick to one thing. You can do multiple things, and also, please, like, okay, what I would say, please just do something like Amazon's or Shinobi specials and all now, instead of just relying on the main show, because that way you can actually split some of the toy stuff into the other shows, instead of, like, having like one show to sell all the toys, and like some of the merchandise. I mean, I'm not saying toys as such, but just have other, like, other shows going on, so that you don't have to just run the main show. You can have other avenues of, what do you call it, distribution of Kamen Rider. And yeah, and make Kamen Rider just a bit more accessible to everybody else, like, in the world, because Super Sentai has the Shout Factory DVDs. Garo is also selling a lot of DVDs, and Ultraman basically is partnering up with Milk Creek to release everything after they won it from the Zi-O people. Now Kamen Rider is the only one that just stuck in Japan, or South Asia in general.
Decade?
Yeah, I'd pretty much agree with all those. One thing that wouldn't necessarily be a change, but like a return to, is just using your insert songs more. Like, Drive was kind of the last show to do it well. Since then, we've had good insert songs, but they use them in like one episode, and that's it. So that kind of sucks. So bring that back, even if it's like a fight that they lose, or it's like a draw at the beginning of one part, or like, it's still fun, more fun than whatever the hell they were playing in some of these Zi-O fights. So if we could go back to that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, insert songs would be really appreciated. That I do agree. But I would say, like, having, instead of having like multiple insert songs that get used sparingly, have particular, like, first have like particular insert song that, or everybody uses, instead of, like, being it specific to one rider until like the final form or something. Because, and also, okay, I know Avid's track charges a lot of money. That's the reason why they're not using those insert songs a lot. But just pay some of pay Avix whatever the money is required, because you all make a lot of money in any ways, because Kamen Rider is one of the best selling merchandise of Toei, other than Gundam, because Gundam stuff are just expensive, and that's the reason why they get a lot of money. But just use some of the profit that you get from that to, put it into the show.
Okay, I think you're mixing up like Bandai and Toei there, but whatever.
Oh yeah, I know but Bandai also provides the money to, make the show as well. Because just with the TV show budget, I doubt Kamen Rider would even continue.
Yeah, well, no, the thing is, like, okay, so it's whatever. Right, so, like, one of the things, like, Bruno has said is, like, yeah, like, these shows are, like, made super fucking cheap. So, like, yeah, as much money as Ryder gets, like, it's still not as well funded as we would like to think. Um, that being said, like what I would really want is like a return to like maybe some of the more like earlier style shows where it's like you don't gotta make everything for the kids. I know Japan, shrinking population, so you gotta like target the kids to sell all the toys, which is fucking dumb because adults have more money. People. So at least just make the damn shows at least like rated teen or for everyone. You don't have to make them so toy centric. Like, to be honest, Zi-O wasn't as bad. Um, but like you don't have to push the comedy as much. So again, because the next show is getting written by the guy who made X-Aid. Like X-Aid's one of the few flaws that X-Aid has is like it's not got the best comedy shit in it, and sometimes it does go a little overboard. So like, yeah, none of that in the next show, please.
My
Uh, okay, I would disagree with you, Zero. I think the Kamen Rider show being for everyone, it is for everyone as it is. I wouldn't say that they are targeting too much towards the kids or too
Well,
much
okay, I'm like,
towards the adults.
okay, here's the thing, right? Like Kuga was for fucking everyone. So was Faiz and Agito and Ryuki, right? Like those are super popular.
No, I don't think so. Because
Okay, yeah,
okay,
yeah. I know you're like, oh, that's not for the kids. I'm like, yeah, fine, but like Kuga, super famous. Agito, kind of famous. Ryuki, super fucking famous. Faiz, kind of famous, right? Blade, the meme writer. But so the thing is, like, can we get to that level again? Like, it's not even like, okay, this
uh,
year's fucking Sentai. Okay, this year's fucking Sentai, right?
Mhm.
Has more of an old school writer vibe sometimes with its storyline than like the current writer. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, maybe back off this like toyistic and kid friendly. I'm like Zio's not as bad, which is fine. But like some years we've had recently, it's been super fucked.
again, that I would still disagree with you because I know Kuga, Agito, Ryuki, and like five. They were famous, but also some of the fame came with age because nobody Blade had one of the lowest ratings back then. Then even Fives also like people that were dropping off the show. Ryuki, a lot of Japanese people don't like it at all.
Okay, that's
Later
really
on,
weird
yeah,
because that's really weird because like Ryuki is like one of the super famous from the early era. Like it goes like Kuga super famous and then like Ryuki. I think it's more like anybody who fucking remembers Ryuki remembers it well. Whereas like most of the other shows, like nobody fucking remembers them, right? Like I mean, besides
yeah, that's
Kuga because it was famous.
yeah, Ryuki was departure from everything because as a lot of people in Japan like Dragon Knight. A lot of majority of the people like Dragon Knight more. People who saw Dragon Knight and Ryuki. That's how it is. Because it's just because Ryuki had that adult kind of atmosphere doesn't mean one. I don't think it's as good of a show as a lot of people make it out to be. That's my personal opinion. But also the fact that it's not as enjoyable and equal. You can't just go through it as easily as a lot of shows in the modern era like post what do you call it post fights have been uh but yeah, and Kuga is super famous one because Kuga was a legitimately good show, but it was also the revival of Kamen Riders, and also that and Joe Odagiri attracted a lot since he was really attractive. He attracted a lot of women viewers who, and that's how the Odagiri effect thing actually came to be. Like hiring like attractive actors to reel in the women viewers. That it got named after Joe Odagiri. So there were a lot of factors that actually led to popularity of the previous shows in the previous era. In the shows in the early Heisei, it was not just because Kamen Rider was a new thing back then as well. Uh,
See, I
it's just that nowadays, nowadays
I
also the fact that Japan's population of having lower kids also does make sense, and the teenagers also go to job a lot more earlier. So I don't think anybody has time to watch the shows anymore live. I mean,
yeah, that's a good point. But I'm like, people find time for shows that they like, and the thing is like this the fucking yeah. Okay, the real problem is
yeah,
fucking Toei does not put their damn shit where people can watch it. Right? That's like the biggest problem. Like, yeah, the app helps, but
yeah,
let's be honest, fucking Toei is not doing their best that they could be. Um,
yeah. That's true.
like as much as I don't like Gaim is fucking popular, right? Like Japan and outside Japan, right? Like Double is super fucking popular, right? So it's like, yeah, those honestly, like, yeah, Double's humor is fucking wacky, but like Gaim is not super funny, and that did relatively well. So I'm like, I guess the difference is like there's a range of writer, right? Like you can have like there's a range between the super kitty shit and then Amazons. Like I would like it to be like okay, the place Zio is now in its final arc. Like if the next show was at that level, I'd be fine. You know, and it's not even Zio's fault. It's more just like a thing that happened, especially in like the post-decade shows, where it's like some shows like they didn't know what to do, so they started pushing comedy way too much. I hope that Toei has by now realized that like that is not a formula for success. Right? Like sometimes it works, but like most of the times, like if you force every single goddamn writer on your shows to just add unnecessary comedy, it doesn't help your shows.
It works for Deno, but it doesn't work for everything else.
Right, right. That's what I was saying. Um,
Uh, I was gonna say something about what Drago was saying earlier. I would like it if it looks like Zero One isn't going to do this, but I would like it if they streamlined rider forms. Like I don't need the main rider to have 20 different base forms if most of them don't matter and are already going to be outclassed by a stronger form by the time they're introduced.
yeah. See, I'd totally be down. Okay, the biggest problem I feel like is they don't have like the temporary forms don't have utility. So as like hit or miss or Forze's like power ups are, like I really like the fact of like okay, his power ups are just power ups. It's like the base suit and addition. That's why like even like when later on like when Forza's fighting stronger dudes in like movies and shit, like he's just this is the rocket one, this is the fucking Gatling gun. It's still useful, right? Like and he got them like early on in the show, right?
Yeah,
So
but also the problem with that is also that, to be honest, yeah, I do agree with that. It does make for a more interesting thing, but no, but people didn't like the Astro Switches, and the thing that sold the most were the, what do you call it, the ones that actually became forms.
yeah, I mean that's just bad marketing to be honest. Like I think it would sell well if you use them properly, right? Like ah like it would have worked well if you used it. Yeah, everybody likes the forms because, like, yeah, it's the forms. But I'm like, that's like every single toy ever in a line, right? Like, nobody buys the full line. Like, even, I mean, like, yeah, that's Bandai's wet dream, but, like, that's not reality. Like, most people buy the power up forms. So, like, that's not a slight against not having utility forms. And secondly, people would buy the shit more if it was more useful, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree with that. But I think to be honest, I just think they should get to do away with the utility forms, because those are, to be honest, those are bad. Unless like the form that comes after the first form is the combination of all utility forms, because so that and they don't use the utility forms anymore or the first form anymore. Straight away go to the this new form. Because one thing I really don't like in Kamen Rider as such with how they handle forms is that even after transforming into the stronger form, which is has the powers of the previous forms, they still transform into the previous form anyways for no apparent reason whatsoever. Which is kind of which is kind of they could because if they don't use the utility forms, they can use those. They can repurpose those to make other rider suits and stuff. That's just saving money.
Yeah, I know it makes sense, but the problem with that is like how Bandai sell motoys, right? So they need to use the damn things. That's literally the reason why it's like, oh, base form, next form, and then this the actual form I actually need for this fight. It's like, yes, kids, this form exists, buy it. It's just padding and bullshit. And yeah, I wish they didn't need them, but it's like the I don't like any of this collectathon crap either. But I'm like, we have to find a solution. And so like I like the Blade and Forza and O's thing where it's like, okay, this form does this thing, right? And so if you need this power in this fight, use this. And I like it better as just being an attachment on the thing. That way they don't have to design a full screen. Um,
But Oz actually had to design a full suit because it's not an
no, no,
attachment.
no. I know O's did, but I like the Forza thing. But like, I like how
Oh
in
yeah.
O's like all the suits had like, oh look, you have the speed legs, so you're fast. You know, like it doesn't matter which form. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
it actually really depends. To be honest, the reason why it works in O's is because O's kept on losing his powers, and his forms weren't like a power up, rather than they were like situational and use whatever you have right now. So it made more sense there, and it worked. In build, while the concept is the same, it was just what do you call it? It was just he had all the bottles right off the bat. Nobody stole it, continuously stole it from him, which is why it wasn't great.
yeah, I think the biggest like the simplest solution would have been to not give build any more power up forms. Like utility forms like all insane 60 bottles, but it's like you don't get any like genius or any of that shit. That way it's like every fight you're gonna have to just outthink it. And his whole thing is he's supposed to be the smartest Kamen Rider. So like just use your damn form smarter. Like he does it in a couple of fights near the end. But like he should have been doing that throughout the show.
No, he does it in the early on the episode, and towards the end of the season, but he doesn't do use it like throughout. To be honest, I think it would have been better if it was just build, hazard, and genius.
Oh,
If
that would
only
have been
these
nice,
three.
but they're not gonna do that. Oh, you know what the best example is? Fucking double, right? Like six forms and they all fucking are useful,
Yes.
right? And you can mix and match and like if you do that, like okay, let's say you do the blade thing of you get 13 cards, but they're utility forms like double them. Where it's like each rider gets their like okay, let's 13 is a big number. Let's go, right? And they all get 10 things that are useful. You just use them over and over and mix and match. It'd be great. I mean, like, yeah, it's a little much, but it's like, fuck it. At least you can kind of get something out of it. Or and plus that way, if you want to keep like the cost down, you do the ghost thing of like it's only just like the top part that switches, like the hoodie thing, right? Like that's pretty much what Ghost has like tons of forms, but it's like yeah, you mostly just get a hoodie and then something on your arm, kind of, and like the mask.
Alright. So thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. This was the end of Kamen Rider Zi-O. And next week we'll be starting up the new era of Kamen Rider with Kamen Rider 01. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Bye bye. We'll see you tomorrow. Hope it's not first.